Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, December 18th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect mostly cloudy skies with a high of 64 degrees in San Antonio today. San Antonio's rain totals have been substantially lower this year, making the last few months one of the driest periods on record according to the National Weather Service. However, we might see rain this weekend. With the end of 2020 approaching, there are only a few stops left in our 52 weeks of pizza tour of the city. Today, we'll have a review of a downtown pizzeria that brings dough and bona fides straight from New York City. Yesterday, federal authorities expressed increased alarm about a long-undetected intrusion into U.S. and other computer systems around the globe that officials suspected was carried out by Russian hackers. Head over to expressnews.com to find out why they called it a grave risk. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. More than $2.2 billion worth of PPP loans were issued to businesses and nonprofits in San Antonio last spring and summer, according to data from the federal government. More than three-quarters of the money, $1.7 billion, went to the north side, northwest side, and northeast side. Those numbers aren't surprising in a city with deep-rooted economic disparities, where growth has been concentrated in relatively affluent and predominantly white communities north of downtown. Take a closer look at how it happened this way and what the loans meant to some local small businesses. Earlier this year, hospital workers confronted the unknown with the virus. This time, they know what's coming. But they're entering a critical phase of the pandemic physically, mentally, and emotionally depleted. Exhaustion and burnout, demoralization and disillusionment, post-traumatic stress, and long-term isolation from patients and their own families have all taken a toll on healthcare workers at a time when they're needed the most. Some are resigned to the tragedy that will accompany this surge. In some cases, they have become inured to the suffering of COVID patients. One supervisor called it another virus spreading silently through the hospital. Lauren Karuba has more in her latest article. To celebrate Governor Greg Abbott's re-election last year, his inaugural committee paid a whopping $1.7 million to hire country crooner George Strait and his band. A coterie of top political aides and staff got more than $1 million, some of it paid out in six-figure bonuses. And a handful of lucky charities received $800,000 in unspent money. Left out of that tally, the $116,000 taxpayers spent to keep all of those inaugural expenditures secret. Abbott and the 2019 Texas Inaugural Committee spent months fighting the disclosures of documents detailing how they spent a record-setting $5.3 million that event organizers raised mostly from corporations and wealthy donors. Head over to expressnews.com to read more about the money. Gilbert Garcia writes, quote, "When this year's Texas electors met in the House chamber in Austin on Monday, they carried out their assigned constitutional duty. They conveyed the state's 38 electoral votes to Trump, who carried the state over Biden by 5.5 percentage points. Right after that vote, however, they did something that showed contempt for the same election system that they had been entrusted with representing. Karen Newton, a San Antonio GOP activist, was one of the 4 Texans who opposed a resolution calling for 4 states to overturn their results. She talked to Gilbert Garcia for his latest column on the matter. As the first doses begin to be administered, we built a project that will continue to update as more data becomes available. We hope you'll find this tool useful and you'll share it with your friends and family, because we think this information is so important, we're removing the paywall from the page. So head over to expressnews.com to find our San Antonio COVID-19 vaccine tracker that includes frequently asked questions, live updates, as well as coronavirus tracking with maps and graphics to track the spread. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. Nearly half of all San Antonio residents who have died of COVID-19 lived on the city's west and south sides, parts of town that are overwhelmingly Hispanic. Since the pandemic began, the virus has had a disproportionate impact on the city's poorest neighborhoods. Governor Greg Abbott on Thursday applauded the arrival of the new coronavirus vaccine, calling it a monumental medical miracle as he sought to boost morale amid some of the pandemic's toughest days. The San Antonio Metropolitan Health District reported 1,606 new coronavirus cases on Thursday. That's the second highest single-day number of new cases reported since the pandemic began in mid-March. Nearly 1,000 healthcare workers at Northeast Baptist Hospital were among the first to roll up their sleeves Thursday to take the COVID-19 vaccine. San Antonio City Council took a first step Thursday towards putting a 4-year, $154 million workforce development plan into motion, but not without turbulence. A woman allegedly shot her 2 children, killing one and seriously wounding the other before turning the gun on herself Thursday morning in New Braunfels. The gift that author and philanthropist Mackenzie Scott bestowed on Palo Alto College amounts to $20 million, officials confirmed Thursday, the largest donation in the 75-year history of what is now known as the Alamo Colleges District. The city's estimated price tag for buying and transforming Frost Bank's old headquarters downtown into offices for employees has swelled to just over $140 million, an increase of 52%. A new research paper from Rice University's Baker Institute of Public Policy finds that strict lockdowns at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic greatly slowed the spread of the virus. Companies that make smartphone cases take a big risk whenever a new device is about to be released. Relying on public leaks and supply chain information, they design and start manufacturing their products months early so they're available when the new handsets start shipping. Head over to expressnews.com to find out what happens when things don't fit just right. The Spurs way implies winning begins with the foundation of character, discipline, service, and a team-first approach, the Express News editorial board writes. That's why we were disappointed to read about the Spurs billing Bexar County $255,000 to use the AT&T Center as a voting site this past election. Read the full editorial over at expressnews.com. Thanks to a new Major League Baseball policy change announced this week, the record books will finally reflect what so many descendants of Negro League legends already held to be true, Mike Finger writes. Read his latest column to find out more on a San Antonio legacy. Until recently, Jennifer and Brian Frederick's Helotes home consisted of 2 parts. 1, a 2-story, 4-bedroom, 4-bath house, and 2, a gorgeous flagstone-rimmed pool that juts out of the ground as the terrain drops away towards the green space beyond the fence line. Trouble was, the 2 separate pieces were too separate. Take a look at how a year-long project created a large, sunny upper deck with a warm, covered patio below that opens up into the swimming pool. Richard A. Marini gives you a tour of this Helotes home that got a resort-like backyard with a year-long renovation. Smithson Valley defeated the Express News' top-ranked team 2 weeks in a row. First, it beat Judson, and followed that win with a 24-20 victory against Reagan in the first round of the playoffs. Tonight, they face reigning state champion Austin Westlake in a Class 6A Division I second-round playoff game. Amigas Café, Casa Frida, George's Mexican Restaurant, Maria's Café, and Taco Riendo all serve steaming bowls of puro San Antonio. Head over to expressnews.com to find out where you can get your bowl of Fideo Loco. Despite all the challenges of 2020, this year gave us a bounty of good shows. We have a list of the 10 best and how to stream them now. Saturday night at the Alamo Dome, Callum Smith seeks to avenge a loss by his brother 4 years ago in Texas. We have a preview of the big event over at expressnews.com. And that's all for today. This was your Express briefing for Friday, December 18th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful day, everyone.